In the last week or so, I've been spending a lot of my spare time actually playing Ghost of Yute. And if you don't know much about Ghost of Yute, as I'm speaking, let me just put a clip up on screen now of the combat that we see in Ghost of Yute. For me, Ghost of Yute has one of the best, maybe one of the best single combat systems in terms of 1v1 in duels. The combat system is fantastically managed and very satisfying to play. We've also seen through the likes of Elden Ring, through Sekiro, through other games such as that combat over the last few years has begun to evolve massively, and it really got me thinking, is Zelda's combat as it is right now in 2025, bearing in mind this is before the release of Age of Imprisonment, is Zelda's combat outdated? In today's video, I'm just going to load up Tears of the Kingdom. I'm going to do some fighting. I'm going to chat through why I think there are elements of it that are massively overlooked, but also why there are definitely areas where if Zelda was to go slightly different in its direction, there could be a serious improvement in Zelda's combat. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. So here we are, this is my save file for the retrospective that I'm currently working on. And I've got myself, just as you can see, with a Lionel in my sight. So we're going to go take that Lionel on. A couple of things, let's talk about a couple of things about Zelda's combat. Certainly in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. So a couple of things. We obviously don't have an effective dodging mechanic, so there's no kind of quick step. You just have jumps, which you press with the X button. You can go forward, backwards, left and right, but you can only go in those four directions. You cannot go in between, as much as I am trying to right now with my stick. I am trying to go diagonally forward, I can't. I can only go in four directions, so that's something to be aware of with combat. So when it comes to the dodging side of things, I think it is slightly outdated. There's definitely a system there to be improved. One of Tears of the Kingdom's better systems, I feel, is actually with the bow. The bow in Tears of the Kingdom Breath of the Wild has always been super. Let's see what we can do here now with the dodge. We've got the block in. We can of course parry if we really want to. I'm getting a bit of help there from my friends. And then it's one-dimensional in terms of actually hitting, so it's just one button, back and forth. My friends are helping me with this. Maybe not what I was looking for. That's a parry. So you can see you've got parries, or a thing. Now, let's just pause there. So that is maybe the biggest single drawback in Tears of the Kingdom, is the weapon durability mechanic. I understand why it was put in the game, so it's not, I'm not being salty about it, but I understand why it was done, to balance the play. But it doesn't do anything whenever enemies' weapons don't break. That to me is definitely a drawback. So whenever enemies' weapons don't break but yours do, while enemies would only have one weapon, I think it's fair to say that it feels like a drawback whenever yours breaks and theirs doesn't. So that was just me trying to show off a boss fight in Zelda, and that's one of the things that I think there could be a serious improvement on in terms of the combat. If we talk through things that we saw there just in that one fight, so there's no real dynamism in when you're attacking, right? So it's just single thrusts. You know, there's no... doesn't really feel like there's a back and forth. It's basically, you attack me, if I get it right, then I have a window to just go like this. Right? Is that fair enough? Now, obviously I could have used charged. Right, but again, that's kind of similar in the sense that it's just kind of the one-dimensional bop, 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 bop. There's not really much to it. I know weapon types are different, I get that. Now, the parry system's great. I enjoy this. As you saw, I utilised that to perfection in the last fight. In fact, I didn't lose a single heart there. But you can see that whenever you get the timing right, you get a window, which is great. The one thing I didn't get to show off in this was the flurry rush. So, of course, if you get the timing right on an attack coming in, you just simply dodge out of the way. You get a slow window to then bop, 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 bop. And then the bow and arrow mechanics are enhanced greatly in this game by the ability to then attach set items to your arrow, and that turns everything in. But I think the bow and arrow mechanic is one of the better features in this game. So that's all very well for a one-on-one kind of boss fight combat duel. How does it play out in group scenarios? So I've just come across this camp. I definitely haven't, you know, spent the last 10 minutes off camera trying to find a camp that would suit for this video. And as you can see, we have 3 bokoblins and a moblin. I want to show you how the dynamics change whenever you're on a 1v3 encounter, for example. So I am just going to stealth my way over. I'm going to take out this bokoblin using the key eyeball. Right, that's you done. So I know this is not an Assassin's Creed game. I know this is not a stealth intended game. But you can play this many ways. This is where I think the bow is one of the stronger aspects. Certainly the physics engine is super strong. So if I was playing this normally in my spare time and I wasn't doing this for a video, I would absolutely be hitting my bomb arrows in there and taking out both bokoblins and the moblin, right? But I want to get the situation where, let's say I've come from the bottom of this hill. I haven't realised these dudes are here. How does this play out if I just come across this encounter as it is? This is where I think the combat feels slightly outdated. Although that's cool. So it's kind of a... My friends are helping me, and I would like them to kind of not, to be fair. Well, that was dead easy. Unfortunately, that was dead easy. But you can see there that, like, in terms of what Link can do on the ground combat, it's slightly one-dimensional. That's not me kind of hating on the game or whatever. It's just the reality of Link's moves are one-dimensional. Swords are slightly better. Now I'm going to show off, just before I wrap up this video, I'm going to show off, of course, one of Tears and Breath's best techniques, which is, of course, this mechanic. This is the best mechanic in the game. Boom. I've cleared out those two before they even had a chance to speak. And that's kind of combat all wrapped up. So here's the reality, I think, for the Zelda franchise. Zelda isn't a series looking to be world-leading necessarily in combat. Exploration and puzzles have always been what Zelda has thrived at the most. Combat has always been, I would say, slightly below the levels of the exploration and puzzle design, and that's always been the way. In many situations, I feel that, especially in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, the combat can feel, in many ways, one-dimensional. However, the question that I have for myself, and I have for you watching this video, is do we actually need Zelda's combat to be anything more than what it already is? Games like Ghost of Yotei, Elden Ring, even God of War, for example, they rely so heavily on the action in their games, their combat. That is the main gameplay driver for them. For Zelda, it's not about the combat all the time. It's often about exploration. It's about the puzzles to solve it. It's about thinking on your feet and working out how to get through the next challenge. Of course, combat is important, and I do think we saw in Breath of the Wild how one-dimensional the combat could be, especially with the way that the last boss fight plays out. In Tears of the Kingdom, I don't think it's much different. I think your added companions give kind of a sense of camaraderie, and also they give you less of a disadvantage when you're facing groups. As we saw in the Lionel fight that I carried out, in a 1v1 contest, Link can more than handle himself. However, it's not that dynamic. It's a little bit like going through the motions. There's not much flash to it. It's just kind of bop, 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 you're done. That's kind of how it plays out. What I would love to see from future Zelda games is a much more realised and worked through combat system. I'm not saying Souls-like, I'm not saying difficult, I'm saying flashier, dynamic. Let's get Link to be able to dodge roll some shots and then come out with a big slash of the sword. All those kind of things I think would make this feel slightly less dated. We have to bear in mind that this combat system is basically the same from Breath of the Wild, which released in 2017. So I know this came out in 2023, but it's now 2025, so we're 8 years since that combat system was released. But what are your thoughts, guys? Let me know in the comments down below. In the next couple of weeks, I'm gearing up for the release of Age of Imprisonment. There will be streams here of the game on the channel, plenty of videos talking about it, doing some lore breakdowns, all that great stuff. And I'm also in the process of putting together an advent calendar for this year, so you have that to look forward to. As always, guys, please like this video, please subscribe to the channel, and if you're feeling extra generous and goofy, why not share this wide in the internet so more people can see this. Appreciate everything you guys do. Thank you for all the support. I will see you very, very soon. Bye.